Hi, in this lesson we are going to learn about how to create classes and how to create objects from these new classes. As we have seen in Java, we have only two types. One is reference type, another is primitive types. We have already looked at all the primitive types. We have 8 primitive types, and now we are going to create classes. So whatever classes we are going to create, they are all of type reference type. Okay, that is the only choice, right? Either it is a primitive type or a reference type. There are only 8 primitive types, so everything else is a reference type. Okay, why are they called reference types? That we are going to see in few minutes or maybe in the next lesson. But for now, let's get started by creating classes. Okay, before creating a class, let's start with our hello world program, and from there we are going to take up how to create classes and all those things. So now we are going to create a file, or again it's a class called test. What are we going to test? We are going to create a new class. I'm going to call it my date. So I'm going to test that my date. Okay, so then finish. It is going to create some package and all those things. So don't worry about these things. We are going to cover them later. So they are not important for now. So let's create a main method, which is the entry point into our program, and let's print hello world. Okay, so we have a working file. Now we are going to create a class. Okay, how do we create a new class? We have to use the keyword class. Very simple, right? Class followed by the class name. So in this case, the class name is going to be my date. So the definition of this class is going to be contained within curly braces. So class name, and opening and closing curly braces. So inside this class, we are going to define the behavior for this class, or whatever this class can contain, we have to define between these two things. So what can class have? Whatever the class can have, we are going to call it the members of the class. So the class is going to have its members. There are two types of members. First one is called member fields, and second one is called member methods. We are going to see further about those things, but for now just remember the class will have its members, and the members are of two types. One is fields, another is methods. Even though we used a fancy word called fields, they are nothing but variables, the variables that the class can contain. So here we are defining a date, right? This date can have year, month and day. So here you can see there is nothing fancy about the class. We are just creating some variables inside the class, because these variables are inside that class. They are called member fields. Okay. So these fields are going to have some default values. So we have seen that in the case of arrays. So if it is a Boolean variable, then it's going to have a value of false. If it is any other type, it's going to have something equal to 0. If it is a decimal, it's going to have 0.0, not decimal, double. If it is a integer, long, byte, short, they're all going to have zeros, and even carry is going to have a numeric equivalent of 0. Okay, so we created these member fields, and before creating member methods, let's go ahead and create some objects. Okay, so first we have to congratulate ourselves, because we have created our first class. We need to make many changes, but having said that, this is a complete class. Okay, now let's go ahead and create some objects of this class. So how do we create an object? We are creating new object, right? So we have to use a keyword called new. Whenever we are defining a class, we used a keyword called class. Whenever we are creating object of the class, we have to use the keyword new. It is not new because we have already used the keyword when we were creating arrays. Okay, after new, we have to give the class name followed by parenthesis. So now, hooray, we have created one object. The type of this object is my date. Okay, so previously we were doing something, right? Whenever we need to use a value, we are saving it in a variable. So here also, if we want to use this object after this statement, we have to save it in a variable. So let's call that variable my date. Okay, so here we can see in the expression that I have highlighted, we can see before the variable we have to give a data type. So here it's a primitive type, but in this case it's a reference type. So we have to give the proper data type. So again, the data type is my date. Okay, so this is how we create our objects. Okay, now we crossed third step. Not only we created an object, we also saved it in a reference type. Okay, so great. Till now we did three things. We created a class, we created an object of that class, also we have saved it in a variable. Okay, so now how can we access these member fields? Okay, they are there, we have to use them, right? So how do we access those member fields using this variable? So the point of saving the object reference in a variable is to use that object. So how do we use that object to access the member fields? So after variable name, just press dot. After that you can give the member field, you can access the member fields. So my date dot year, I am going to assign some value. I am going to do the same thing for month and day also. So I have created a object and I have assigned three values. So it is nothing but January 1st, 2017. Okay, let me create one more object. So how do we create? This time I'm going to call it my date 2. Okay, we created one more object. So this object is also going to have those three fields. So I can access those three fields. So here I am assigning 2012 January 1st. Okay, so now we have created two objects and we have assigned the values for the fields inside that object. Let's create one more object, but this time we are not going to assign any values. Okay, let's run this program just to make sure everything is working fine. Okay, no compilation errors, nothing. So we created a class, we created objects, we accessed those member fields. So not only we can assign values, we can read the values using the same expression. So let's go ahead and print this object. Okay, so I'm going to print only the first object. Later we are going to print second and third objects also. Let's see what happens. So here we can see that when we are trying to print the object, it's not printing the values for these fields. What it's printing is, it's simply printing the class name, that is my date, at the rate of some value. Actually it is a hash code, but you don't need to know about that now. So it's simply printing class name. So whatever you are seeing before the class name, that is nothing but this package name. Don't worry about that. We are going to see that, and there is going to be a very big lesson about packages. So let's take the things one by one. Okay, so just by printing my date, we are not getting the values of the fields. So if we have to print those values, so we have to again access them. Let's give some space in between. Okay, let's go ahead and print it. Okay, now we are able to see the proper values. Let's do the same thing for other two objects also. I'm printing that. So here we can see the first object has a value of January 1st 2007 and second object it has a value of January 1st 2012. What about the third object? We did not assign any values to these object fields, so as we said they are going to be initialized to zeros because these are integer values. If these are boolean values, they would have been initialized to false. Okay, here we can see all zeros. Okay, now we know how to access the fields using the object variables. Now this is time to create one more method, so that because actually in classes the fields are not interesting at all. We are going to see that because going forward you are not going to see the fields. We are not going to use the fields anywhere outside the class. We are going to use these fields only inside the class, but everywhere else we don't use those fields. And to be frank, outside this class you should not know the field names also. But okay, those are all extra details, but for now let's create a method. Okay, what method can we create? Here I am going to create a method called isLeapYear. So the intention is, if the value saved in the year or the year is a leap year, then it should return a value of true, saying okay, this year is a leap year. So if it is not a leap year, it should return false, saying okay, it's not a leap year. Okay, so here we have a method, but it's only method name. How do we convert it to a method? So we have to give curly braces, not curly braces, we have to give the parenthesis. Okay, now it's a method, but this method will have definition. Just like class, this method is also going to have its own definition, method definition or method body. Okay, so what did we say? This method is going to return a boolean value, right? So it has to return some boolean value. For now, let's say it's always going to return true. Okay, so because it's returning the boolean value, it has to say I am returning a boolean value. So before the method name, you have to mention the return type, and inside the method or inside the method body, you have to return a value of that particular type, in this case boolean. Okay, for now let's say it is always going to return true. How do we invoke this method? So whenever we are talking about fields, we are talking about accessing the fields, but whenever we are talking about methods, we say invoking the method. So how do we invoke that particular method on this particular object? So same way, using the dot notation. So here you can see now it has one more method called isLeapYear. Okay, hooray, we have accessed a method on a particular object. It is going to return a value of boolean type. So instead of just using here, let's print that one. Okay, whatever value it's returning, we are going to print that. Okay, let's do the same thing for all the objects. Let's not do that for the third one because we haven't given any value there. Okay, so 2017 January 1st, wow, it's a boolean. I mean, the year is leap year. Even 2012 is leap year, but 2012 is leap year, but 2017 is not leap year. But it's returning true because we did not write the logic. Okay, let's write the logic. So if the year is divisible by 4, then it's a leap year. But if the year is divisible by 100, it's not a leap year. So it should not be divisible by 100, but it should be divisible by 4. Okay, let's run it. And it's saying 2017 is not a leap year, but 2012 is a leap year. Actually, the logic contains even more. So if it is divisible by 400, then also it's a leap year. Okay, you can create one object as an exercise, and give some number that is divisible by 400 but not by 100. So let's do that. I mean, for here, for this object, let's give the year 400. Okay, let's run now. Okay, here we are not printing, because now we are having the value, let's print that. Okay, so this is a leap year 400, but if we give 100 here, it's not a leap year. Okay, false. So we are going to conclude our class here, but before we conclude, let's recap. We have created a class using the keyword class followed by class name. Inside the class body, we have created 3 member fields and we have created 1 member method. After that, we have created 3 objects and we have assigned some values to the fields inside that object. Also, we have seen the first object has its own fields, second object has its own fields, and third object has its own fields. And we are able to assign some values. Not only assign, we are also able to read those values. Also, we have invoked a method on that particular object. So if the object is containing a value that is a leap year, or my date is a leap year, then is leap year is going to return true. So here we are able to see how we can utilize a function or a method and how this method is operating on the fields that are inside that object. Okay, so the method is going to operate on the object fields. What object fields? Whatever object is used for invoking that method. So here we can see we are using object 1, object 2 and object 3 to invoke these methods. Whenever you are using object 1, the method will apply for the fields or the values contained in this object. Whenever you are applying on object 2, it is using the fields inside that object. So that you can clearly see here, right? This year is nothing but this one. Okay. Congratulations. This is your first lesson on creating objects, and whatever objects you are going to create, they are going to follow this particular pattern. There is going to be some changes, but this is the starting point. A class with member fields and member methods and objects that are created from the class and the methods that are invoked on those particular objects. Okay, congrats once again. Thank you for watching this video, and last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to get more videos and alerts. Also, if you are benefited by this video, make sure you share it with your friends so that they also can watch and they also can learn. Thank you for watching. Welcome to Manohar Academy once again.